Hi, Neil. Thank you for coming along to Impact Builder. Um, let's start with an intro from yourself. Mike, who are you?
Thanks, Ant. Hi there. So I'm Mike Appleby. I'm the co-founder of Levlr. I'm somebody who's spent the last 15 years of his career helping people get into work. I'm Brighton born and bred, and I like music, food, and football.
Thank you. Neil, for yourself, beat
Yeah.
that.
Oh, well, beat that. That's a challenge. Hi, Neil. Thanks for having us along today. Co-founder on Levlr. So I've been involved in the digital recruitment space my whole working life. Very much keen to sort of change the balance of what's happening. I'm not Brighton born and bred, but I've lived in Brighton for the last 30 odd years. Very passionate about the football team, which bores Mike to death. But I think it's always a good thing to support your local teams.
So let's start talking about Leveller. Firstly, can you talk to me about the problem that you've spotted in the market?
Yeah, so the problem's one that has been growing for the last couple of decades, right back from when I remember going up and down the high street with a paper copy of my CV to go and get a job. And you've started to see things like LinkedIn and job boards and more technology come into the recruitment space. What we've actually seen, rather than a lot of the problems being solved, is a growing skills gap and harder for employers to be able to identify quality candidates or the candidates that are right for them, because there's less human interaction the more technology has been involved. And really, we see a big issue for the candidates. There's huge amounts of people out there looking to get into work, looking to use their skills to make money and to help develop organizations. And they're finding that they're getting blocked by the recruitment process as it is and finding it hard to get into work. And they're putting out applications, but getting very, very little back from the process. So that was really where our thinking started. There must be a better way. And that started about 5 years ago as the idea developed.
Okay, so it's a recruitment play. There are a few of those in the market and also those that work in the CV space. How do you stand out from the rest? What makes you different?
Well, I think the main difference is, as Mike says, we're focused on the candidates, we're focused on the individuals, we're focused on those people that aren't successful first time. So there's 98% of people that are rejected in the process. We're focusing very much on those people and enabling them and the employers to move everyone forward. So there's a lot of, I guess you could call it noise, competition at the top end. So how do you match people better, an element of talent pooling, but nobody's really focused on, well, what happens to the people that aren't initially successful? That's what we do, and that's what makes us completely different to everyone else.
And we see a huge amount of new technology coming into this space all the time. That hasn't slowed down through the pandemic, through everything that's happened with the adoption of more digital tools. But the problem stays the same, and we see all of these new tools, everything that's coming to market, it tends to be focused on helping employers find that top 2% of candidates. And we feel there's a massive missed opportunity within that 98%. And that's where we've really kind of put ourselves as unique. We can absolutely help with that top 2%, but we're going to give so much more value back to everybody in the supply chain if we can address the 98% as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about that user journey. So I'm, let's say, one of 98 in 100 applications that gets rejected. What happens?
Well, first off, we don't want to use the term rejection anymore. So it's perhaps more of a redirection. So as a candidate, you might traditionally apply to a job on one of the job boards and you send your CV off and you hear nothing back at all. That's the first point where we think we need to address this situation, because that already creates distrust between the employer and the candidate. So straight away, you'll get a nice email from us to say, thank you very much for your application. We value your time, give you some insight into what the process is and start to give you some visibility. Now, if you're not selected for a job or for an interview at that point, we want to make sure that actually you're going to still get value from this. So you'd be invited to join the employer's talent pool, and within that talent pool you get access to a platform where you can update your details, you can talk more about your preferences, you can engage with the employer, but more importantly you're going to be reconnected to relevant jobs that new jobs that come around with that employer, or education and development.
And I guess the flip side of that is, if you're a recruiter a company? What does it look like for you? Well, we've designed the whole business to be as least disruptive as possible. So it's basically a plug into their existing technology flow. So they would log into our system, they would see the candidates coming through, they'll be able to see which ones are matched and most relevant to the roles that they have. But then that's linked exactly into their ATS or applicant tracking system. So the movement of candidates backwards and forwards and the ability to update those candidates in the process is very much seamless. That's a big part of making it easy for the companies and recruiters to adopt the technology and utilize it in their everyday.
And recruitment is a very reactive experience. It tends to be that an employer has a job requisite, posts it straight away, gets some candidates in, hopefully makes their hire, but quite often they don't achieve that. And then that's it. And then it's kind of forgotten about. And really our role is to expand that out on both sides, to be able to give the employer and the candidate much more out of that journey than just that one reactive moment. Can we turn this into a proactive experience and learn more about this candidate through that journey to be able to match them better to jobs afterwards?
Okay, so some North Star metrics. Have you got any of those that you're looking to change and target?
Yeah, so at the moment, employers find value within 2% of the applications, that they spend a lot of money driving into the top of the funnel. We want to make sure that employers are actually able to access 20% of that. So we want to 10x the value that they're getting from their experience at the top. The other thing that we do is reduce the amount of time they spend looking through the CVs that aren't quite right. Now, it's important that we treat all of those candidates that aren't quite right with respect and try and get them into work or education as quickly as possible. But actually, for the human in this, we want to make sure that they're spending their time talking to people and having that human interaction. The bits that technology can't replicate, that's what we want to make sure. So straight away, we're already reducing the amount of time spent sifting through CVs by up to 80%. We'd like to increase that a bit further as well if we can.
And then you've got, I guess, the greater purpose, the social impact that we want to achieve. So we set ourselves some quite ambitious goals to say within 3 years, so 2028, we want to impact at least 1 million individuals into their career pathway, a job or in education, because we think that, what we're trying to do here has a massive social output as well. So we want to hold ourselves a bit accountable to those positive sort of social outputs alongside the core business ones.
Okay, that's great to hear. This being Impact Builder, we really do want to double down on that social impact in this case. So can you talk more around that in terms of, you've got the 98% of people that are rejected. I'm also guessing that there's a lot of people that are in the wrong roles will be a lot happier in different roles. There's lots of people being missed. Can you give me some more information around that?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of, we say the people that are being missed. So, I'll use a real example. There's a business that we're working with now that has over 200,000 people apply to their roles every year for 4,000 vacancies. So that presents, you don't have to do rocket science to do the maths. There's several significant hundreds of thousands of people that are just left and stuck in the system. So we would ensure that those individuals have a opportunity, one, to get feedback, but two, to understand where they're at, where their gaps are they suited to other roles within that organisation, or actually, do they need to move on a bit of a learning pathway with us to help that individual get the skills and experience that they need in order to be successful for the roles that they've applied for.
So that's a large company that you're talking about, and presumably they would have some CSR kind of obligations, and would this help them with that?
Absolutely.
There's a number of different reasons as to why employers are starting to work with us. Not only are we saving them time and money in the top of the funnel, which is great, but that CSR angle is really important to them. And it's like anything now, you have to be prepared for the fact that if you give somebody a poor experience, they're going to post about it online. And we're seeing this huge wave of more and more candidates starting to talk about their experience with an employer on forums like Reddit, for example. We know about Glassdoor, we know about LinkedIn, where people can voice their unhappiness. But actually, especially for the market that we work in, that is consumer-facing businesses, if you're attracting 200,000 people a year and you're giving them a bad experience and they're talking about it within these forums, then that can have a huge negative impact on your financial metrics and your turnover, as much as actually, just by implementing some small changes and by adopting a platform like ours, you can give everybody a good experience and provide everybody with a good reason to talk about you rather than a negative one.
And, again, bringing that to life, one of our early adopting clients, Champneys Health Spa, they attract anywhere up to 7,000 applications a month, most of those people live within a 20 to 30 mile radius of where they operate. Most of those people are customers of theirs, or they have friends that are applying to roles that are customers of theirs. So just again, thinking about the impact a negative process has on those individuals that are applying, they're super excited about how they can work with us to ensure that everybody that's applying to them has an amazingly positive experience and can move forward together, because ultimately those people that are applying are customers of the brand as well.
Okay. So how do you get to market? Who are your customers and how do you go after them?
So we have a number of ways to sort of go to market. Partnerships is a really obvious one. So partnerships with the industry sector. So we have partnerships with the Retail Trust, with Hospitality Action and many others to give us that trust and credibility, but to connect us to brands that want to achieve what we're trying to achieve. We also, as I said, we're integrated into the to the sort of technology process that currently exists. So applicant tracking systems, there we work with them to integrate our technology into their ecosystem, which then means we're a one-to-many, all of their clients that we can work with to utilize our software. But we also have a direct sales approach as well, to talk to as many individual companies outside of that sort of partnership and technology partners that we have as well.
So you both sound like you've got a lot of experience, and it sounds like you're also learning things from the product journey that you're on. Talk to me about your backgrounds, if you will.
So I've spent my whole working life in the digital recruitment job board space. So I was part of the early teams that founded brands like Caterer.com, Total Jobs, and sort of been through that whole journey, both from a customer point of view. So the businesses that operate in that space, what do they want? How are they looking at return on investment, etc. But more importantly, the candidate in the middle. And I found there was that's a big motivation to why we've started what we're doing, because I think there wasn't enough focus, there still isn't, on the candidates as being a customer of those types of businesses. So that's my experience. I've spent a lot of time in that space for the last 25 years. So I think that gives me the knowledge and experience to understand the technology, but then within the markets that we're entering in retail and hospitality, I know those markets incredibly well, got big networks, have the opportunity to get a lot of feedback quite early from those customers. So I think that sort of gives me a good understanding of what we're trying to achieve and how we need to achieve it.
Okay. And for yourself, Mike?
Yeah, so I've been in recruitment since around 2007. And when I started in recruitment, I had a great experience. You know, we were working for some of the big guys, Facebook and Yahoo, big companies like that when they started out. But it all went south pretty quickly, as most of us will remember the financial crisis that happened in 2008. And that was the first time that I found myself on the other side of the fence as a candidate and realized there was a problem, because I was trying to take my skills into another industry. And that experience in around 2008 really shaped the rest of my career. I ended up building my own recruitment business where we got rid of the CV and we recruited based on personality rather than necessarily previous experience. I launched an initiative to help young people into work. And then I went into edtech to be able to say, we can't keep talking about a skills gap. You know, education has come on so far. Why don't we give people the skills that they need to do the jobs? And that culminated in me helping over 1,000 unemployed people in the UK into education to employment programs, all funded by the Department for Education.
Okay, that's great. So you talk about putting the human back into the process. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that and how you compete with the likes of the jobs boards, etc., and any other kind of digital technology out there?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, the biggest problem that the candidate has is simply not being heard. You know, and we hear endless stories of candidates applying for jobs that they feel they're a really good match to, but they hear nothing back from the employer on that, or they don't get the interview or the chance to engage with the employer. The difference of what we provide is that we're going to give everybody that platform, that opportunity to understand more about the employer that they're trying to engage with, and a way to be part of a community with that employer, to be able to speak to the hiring managers, to be able to see what's going on in there, and to be able to make a decision for themselves as to whether or not they're a good fit for that employer, or actually would they rather move something else. And I think a lot of the time at the moment, candidates are out there applying for jobs, and because it's so easy, they spread bet. And so I'll chuck my CV in there, throw my CV in there, in the hope that something's going to come back. And what we want to do is give the power back to the candidate to be able to identify not just the jobs that are right for them, but the skills that they might need to get into the next job, and the employers that match them on a cultural and behavioural basis.
And I think the marketplace as well is driving the wrong behaviours within the candidates too. You know, they, like Mike says, they're not being heard. So quite often the only way to get heard in that situation is to shout louder. And what they're doing there is just literally firing off hundreds of CVs, utilising AI that blocks the process up. Because the flip side is the job boards, they're really moving to a performance model, which is about pay-per-click, pay-per-application. So they're fueling that flame. They're driving more applications into the top of the funnel, which creates the blockage and the noise. I think the other piece of we're really working with the customers, the businesses, is saving their recruitment teams time, because we want to enable more of those human conversations. Those teams are crying out for more of those human conversations. So let's use some technology that enables that, so those people can have those conversations. The candidates feel invested, they understand where they're at, and the whole piece can move forward.
The other thing I just want to bring up quickly is that candidates can be pretty canny, you know, and they're starting to learn how to play the game. And there's huge concerns over how AI is impacting applications and, you know, CVs that are being written by AI and things like that. And really, you know, this is just their attempt to be heard and to be seen. And this is why we want to make sure that actually we can give candidates more of that data, more of that information. And everything that we do really is about collecting data to enable both employers and candidates to make better and informed decisions, rather than having to feel like, okay, why have I not been seen? We have all the tools to be able to give the candidates all of that information. This is why you're perhaps not at the level that the role is, and here's how we can help you fill that gap. So I think this is about data collection, and this is about giving people more visibility on the process and giving them the tools to be able to make the right decisions.
Okay, so Levlr is live. You've got paying customers. What is the one biggest thing that you've learned from those paying customers that has confirmed what you're doing is the right thing? And what is the one biggest surprise that you've had in terms of feedback from those customers?
I think the one biggest thing that we've learned that validates is everybody understands that there's a massive missed opportunity with the candidates that are, you know, not being successful first time, because they understand that the blockages that exist in the top of the funnel, and they have a real desire and want to have that human connection and to ensure that everybody that's taken the time to apply to them has a positive experience. We've had that validated time and time again, which is great, because that gives us the confidence that we know we're trying to fix a genuine problem. And I think the thing that's not been so much or been a surprise to us is just how passionate those people are about fixing that problem. You know, whenever you go to market with a solution, people are going to want to potentially, if you've got a good solution, use it, but just how passionate that people, because it's a people industry, are about the people is really great, really refreshing.
Yeah, I think for me, the best thing that we've discovered is that people are starting to realise that A, there's a huge opportunity that we can help them unlock. But B, I think the biggest takeaway for me has been actually how ineffective a lot of the incumbent technology is, because our solution is not meant to be another new piece of tech. It's meant to plug into the existing tech to make things better. And when you start to realise the pressure that hiring teams are under, and the tools that they're trying to use to help them achieve their goals are just completely and utterly ineffective. And I think even I've been surprised at how little the employers have to use to their advantage to help them get the candidates into play.
Yeah, and we're talking big companies as well. You know, significant, huge organisations that you would expect to probably have the tools that just don't.
Okay, so sounds great. What does the future entail? Where are you going to be in 5 years? What are you hoping for?
So ideally in 5 years' time, I want us to be the leading jobs platform. And when I say the leading jobs platform, I think that's pretty broad. So I would quantify that by saying that we want to be able to make sure that we're helping people get into jobs or education quicker than anybody else. So this is about helping people find the jobs that are right for them and helping to get the education that's right for them in front of them quicker. You know, the reality of it is that there's so much positive or so many good tools out there for people to use. Online education has come on leaps and bounds in the last 10 years. You know, there's tools and there's things for people, and there's community and people that want to talk and share their thoughts and share their insights, but it's not curated as part of the recruitment process. And so for me, I really want us to be able to turn recruitment from something that is currently a negative and reactive experience into something that's proactive and nurturing.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it'd be really exciting for us in 5 years' time to see the genuine impact we've made, both from both sides. So from the businesses that we're working with, how many people have they been able to sort of re-engage and get people back into those roles? How has it helped their strategic sort of workforce planning? But on the candidate side, how great will it be to hear the stories of the individuals that have been stuck, that we've unlocked the opportunity for them, that are now super successful in the businesses they really want to work and thrive in. Those are the stories that I'm sure we're going to deliver many of, but it'll be so exciting to hear those back over the next 5 years.
Okay, so AI is having an impact in so many ways on the job market. How does Levlr stay ahead of that and look after us humans?
Yeah, sure. So it's funny because obviously we come across this a lot, and there's a real fear at the moment in the marketplace of what AI is going to do. And I remember the transition from being on paper CVs and advertising in newspapers and advertising in radio to the change of job boards coming around and LinkedIn coming around, and everybody thinking that was the death of recruitment back then. And I think now people are using AI to help improve their chances of getting work, and it's not necessarily helping, whereas actually AI is just another tool, you know, and it's about how you use that tool that's important. So for us, AI is about collecting data and using that data to make sure that we're going to help people get the outcome that's right for them. This is about how do we get more people having more meaningful human interactions. And if we can cut out the noise and cut out the amount of manual work that's required to get there, and we can use AI to do that, and we can encourage more people to speak to each other and spend time with each other meaningfully, then we think it can be a real tool for good. But yeah, we see it as just another tool to get an outcome that we're looking to get.
It's very much about whether it's AI or any other technology, it needs to be used as an enabler, not necessarily a hard decision maker, because I think that's where people fall foul of it. That's where people get scared, is if you embrace it and understand what the capabilities it can do for you as an enabler for those human conversations that we've talked a lot about, that's a really positive use of whether it's AI or any other technology, rather than sort of running away and thinking that the robots are taking over.
But I think also it's really, really important that we never use AI to make the decision for people. You know, AI has been around in recruitment for a long time. Machine learning has been around in recruitment for a long time. And I think where AI is being used at the moment is to make that process feel a bit more human. But essentially in the background, it is literally just still data that we're collecting to help people get to the desired outcome that they want to choose. And so by providing them with the information, we enable them to make a better decision rather than using AI to cut people out of a process or change direction for them. To Neil's point, this is all about how do we use data that we can collect, use machine learning, use AI, use any other technology that's going to enable us to give power back to the candidate or to the employer to make better decisions and help them get to where they're trying to get to quicker.
Okay, so 5 years from now, where do you want to be? What is the impact that you see Levlr having on the market?
So we'd like to have a significant impact on the way that the industry views recruitment. At the moment, recruitment is a very reactive process, and when a candidate applies, it's a dead stop for 99% of candidates in that process. The joy for me would be to be able to educate around what happens if we free up that 99%. If we're able to continue that momentum and help get people get into the jobs that are right for them, what does that do for that brand and that employer, but most importantly, what does it do for that individual? How does that affect their mental health to help them get into a job that they feel they're delivering something meaningful, that they're enjoying, to stop that churn of work and make sure that people are using their skills to do something they're genuinely passionate about. Just be amazing to see the positive impact that we can make with that.
And it's a massive frustration because a lot of people talk, probably in lots of cases, genuinely about a skill shortage. But when you talk about a skill shortage and you're leaving X how many hundreds of thousand people that are stuck in the process, how many of those people can fulfill the skills that are a shortage? The answer is obviously a lot. So let's enable that process to happen, and then you're going to start seeing some really positive outputs, and hopefully those skill shortage conversations, while still valid, we can do something about it.
And we want to be true to our name of leveling the playing field. We want to open up all of the communities that are being underserved at the moment. We want to be able to show the motivation. This is what I've seen, helping over 1,000 unemployed people into work. I know the amount of motivation out there. I know the amount of skills out there that at the moment is being blocked by current recruitment processes, and to be able to make people realize that, but not just, I think they do realize it, but actually be able to enhance that and utilize that kind of stored up momentum and access more talent, not just because we're going to reject somebody because they've got a gap in their CV or we're making these biased assumptions, but actually to be able to unlock the people and the skills that are out there. Everything's going to improve. Society's going to be better, and businesses are going to thrive.
How great it will be. They exist, right? So the next CEO of probably a lot of the companies that we're talking to probably exists in someone's talent pool somewhere. How brilliant would it be to work with them to unlock that person and tell that story? So in 5 years' time, you can see that person shining within that business. That'll be like a true testimonial to what we've done.
When I was a recruiter and I made a huge amount of hires without a CV because I knew the employer, I knew the hiring manager, and I would say to them, you've got to meet this person, because as a human, I've been able to identify this person is a great fit for this company. I know that they're going to do great things when they move there. And Levlr is about how do we do that scalably, right? Yeah. So how do we start to take the skills that we've got as recruiters and as people and make that a scalable solution to help people? So I think to your question, in 5 years' time, if rather than being able to do that for 4 or 5 people a month, I'm able to do it for 4,000 or 5,000 people a month, would just be a dream come true.
Great. Okay, so you're live, you're talking to customers. How can people get hold of you? Where do they go? What's your website?
So our website address is www.levlr.io, and Levlr is spelled Levlr. And then our email addresses are mike@levlr.io or
Neil@levlr.io. So pretty simple, pretty easy to get in touch with us. We're out in the market a lot as well, so.
And you'll find us ranting on platforms like LinkedIn quite a lot as well, and at various industry events.
I look forward to it, and I look forward to seeing where you take Levlr, and wish you all the best. Thank you so much for coming along today.
Thanks
for having us.